Protesters flooding the steps of the Supreme Court yesterday as justices heard two cases challenging President Biden's student loan handout. Oral arguments went on for about 3.5 hours, and the justices, well, they appeared skeptical of the president's plan.
We know statistically that the person with the college degree is going to do significantly financially better over the course of life than the person without. And then along comes the government and tells that person, you don't have to pay your loan. Nobody's telling the person who is trying to set up the lawn service business that he doesn't have to pay his loan.
Exactly. Well, joining me now is Elaine Parker. She is the president of the Job Creators Network, which filed suit on behalf of the two borrowers in one of those cases. Elaine, how did you feel about it yesterday?
Well, look, I think that our lawyers did a great job putting forth the arguments. There were two questions. The first was whether or not we had standing in the case or the right to sue. And the second was whether or not the Biden administration had the authority under the HEROES Act to create a $400 billion student loan forgiveness program. And, you know, basically what we argue is that our plaintiffs were denied their right to be heard through a notice and comment process, which is statutorily required in any regulatory process. So our plaintiffs, as well as millions of other Americans, didn't get to have their voices heard because the Biden administration went into a back room and created a program in secret and decided who was in and who was out. And that's just not how our system works. We do get to talk to our unelected bureaucrats, and it is through this process, and they didn't want to go through it. And that's why we're challenging this program, because he doesn't have the authority under the HEROES Act to do this.
I want to play call for number 2 for you. This is that Justice Sotomayor, who she's making a point that might appeal to people's empathy, but this is not a legal point. Listen here.
There's 50 million students who are will benefit from this, who today will struggle. Many of them don't have assets sufficient to bail them out after the pandemic. They don't have friends or families or others who can help them make these payments.
And Elaine, if you'll just bear with me and listen to Randy Weingarten, this call for number 1. She was on the steps of the Capitol yesterday, or the Supreme Court. She's very exercised about one issue. Watch here.
This is what really pisses me off. During the pandemic, we understood that small businesses were hurting, and we helped them, and it didn't go to the Supreme Court to challenge it. Big businesses were hurting, and we helped them, and it didn't go to the Supreme Court to challenge it. All of a sudden, when it's about our students, they challenge it.
Okay, well, what she's talking about before, that was actually passed by Congress. Wasn't the issue there at stake at the Supreme Court?
There's no comparison between the Paycheck Protection Program that assisted our small businesses during the pandemic. Remember, our businesses were shut down forcefully by the government. And this law was passed through Congress, a bipartisan Congress, and signed into law by a president. And it was meant to be a grant from the beginning. These are student loans. And frankly, I do feel sorry for these students. I do have empathy. We agree with the Biden administration that we have a crisis, a student loan crisis. But by forgiving these debts by our taxpayers and through a process that's illegal, we are basically telling colleges and universities that they can continue to increase tuition far past the rate of inflation every single year and not be held to account. The Biden administration has done nothing to hold colleges accountable. We ran an ad in the New York Times yesterday calling out the Biden administration, asking them why they're giving colleges and universities a blank check. And you know what? They've done nothing. They don't respond to that. And they put out some email yesterday to all of the people on their list that are waiting for forgiveness, saying that they're fighting for them and trying to hold colleges accountable, but they've done nothing. I'd love for somebody to tell us what they've done.
And then, of course, that'll be the court's fault that they put forward something that doesn't pass legal muster. Elaine, thanks for coming on today. I guess we will know by the end of June what the court decides. Thank you.
Thank you.